I'm happy to be back here. I was here 1 year ago, and yeah, it's a nice journey. I'm following you guys with Web3 privacy. I think you're doing a lot of good things to the crypto space, and yeah, I'm saying this on top of quite some time that I've been around in the crypto communities. So this is the foundation I represent, Dynorg. We are partners. That's a little bit of a bird's eye view, point of view of what we do. And we're based in Amsterdam, but we are really international. So our members, people, volunteers, projects are pretty much sparse around the world. One big project we have is Dev1, which is a fork of Debian without systemd, hence much more secure. Is very popular in the US. And another project is Tomb. Maybe some of you have ever used for encrypting your files on GNU Linux. We have a bunch of other projects. I will talk about only one here. But I came here to talk about other things. This is obviously where we learned to do what we do. So the GNU project was absolutely seminal and important for us. I know it's not very important to talk about it in a crypto conference because fortunately crypto communities accepted the fact that there is no security through obscurity, and most, I would say, all projects that are worth to be mentioned, they are absolutely open source. So these are the four freedoms that the GNU project stated, and the Free Software Foundation is there to represent, that are very important to have in every project. So about me, as Pier Giorgio said, yes, I've been a squatter for about 10 years. I've squatted around Europe in many different places. And yes, I was on the Interpol dossier for 2 pages they had about me when I was 19 as a potential cyber criminal. I had the luck to look at it. Huh? Well, you know, yeah, I had the luck that I had. It was that my work giver at that time, a little lab in the university where I was helping to do like multimedia CDs. That was the hype at that time. He really liked me. So when he got this news from the police telling him, "Hey, a potential cyber criminal is working for you," he preferred to tell me. So he showed me the dossier, and it was amazing because they had not only stuff about me, but also about all the people that I hang out on IRC. At that time, we were using IRC. They had nicknames, channels. They had a lot of information. It was like 99. So, yeah, warning to everyone, like, you know, sometimes the people you're trying to protect yourself, they are way more advanced than you expect. It's very difficult to maintain privacy. I was a kid. I wasn't really much attentive. There wasn't Tor at that time. I had secure shells around. I was cracking into systems, I was having fun, and then I decided what to do in my life. I became a developer and a squatter. So, yeah, obviously, no one of us here missed the crypto sensation. So I'm around since 2011. These are the people that really inspired what we are doing, and I think it's unique to have them in the same picture. Here it's Richard Stallman, the founder of the Free Software Movement, when he went visiting Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy. I think the ethos of transparency that WikiLeaks brought forward in governance, in the intelligence communities, in journalism, matches very well the ethos of free and open source software when we are developers that want to see things work well and built in a transparent and bottom-up way. So, yeah, I think this thing is just everywhere, and we are one of the many processes that were forked by our communities. So one thing that is very important to focus on is that me nor anyone else here will be the solution or the hero, not even Assange or the martyr of this movement, but we are like really growing, and this is where we are winning, not actually in maintaining our privacy, but in spreading our beliefs farther. One thing where I left you at the previous presentation, it was, well, this is my doctoral research. and the statement following this, you'll find the research on algosov.org, which was one of the last statements in the previous presentation. So I'd like to pick it up from here. This is a fundamental choice when you look at what we are building and why, and this is also the reason why I built Zenroom as a product, as a component in the Web3 space in the past 5 years. When I develop software, I start asking myself this question every time. What am I developing it for? And most of the commercial products, they develop so that machines understand humans and provide answers. This connects to the first problem of the 3 problems that I will present you today that are troubles at the horizon that I see that the Web3 community needs to challenge. This is just a prelude to that, but it's a very simple question. And I believe that when we develop cryptography, let alone, okay, UX may be very difficult, so it may be very difficult to make it usable, but we are developing so that there is a transparent process to the transactions, there is a predictability, and the underpinning of everything that we develop in crypto is determinism. So there is a deterministic system that we can actually read as humans and base as a truth that we can establish. One thing that I developed, which was the last and the only product that I tell you about today, is Zenroom. This is a VM I'm busy with for the past years. It was funded by European Commission research, and it is today used in various products. The VM can be programmed in human-like language. It runs in 2 megabytes of RAM. Its payload is less than 2 megabytes. It runs also in WASM in a browser, so we build end-to-end cryptography systems. The most beautiful part of it is that it's programmable in human-like language. So you don't need a developer, you don't need a coder to develop with Zenroom. And this is exactly why I develop it. So and I tell you also as an entrepreneur, when I let humans understand machines, there is an enormous value that is not seen by the majority of the industry, is that I can have people work in an interdisciplinary way, and I can have domain experts to work besides developers. And this is making our software unique, our process of developing software unique, because we can involve directly the people that are domain experts. Imagine we work, for instance, in the energy sector with smart meters, and people working on the grid for renewable production that can be resold to the grid. They study a single nation for 10 years just to understand the percentages, how they go around, and all the taxes and levies that need to be paid to the grid. These people have a unique knowledge that needs to be communicated to developers in the moment in which we make a firmware that will go into the smart meters. And this point is a point of failure in most of the developments, because there is a big liability in the communication, which is an overhead of communication between the domain experts and the developers. So when you have humans to understand exactly what goes on machines, you can also distribute this liability. You can have a lawyer to review your contracts, and this will facilitate a lot the internal processes also of your company. So this is the direction we took. We have a very successful spin-off company now, which is Forkbomb, but I'm not here to talk about that. I introduce you this concept because I want to take it off from the last presentation and go forward to look at 3 challenges that I see at the horizon that we could solve as Web3 privacy, and in general as what I call the real crypto movement. So not those road shows full of sociopaths in Las Vegas, and we're not that are, like the Balmer style of crypto, but from the real crypto community, which I believe is here. So the 3 challenges are briefly put like this. We have in front of us the rise of non-deterministic technology. We have a big identity grab coming out from various technologies deployed all around the world, and we have a complete lack of threat awareness. So I will zoom in each of those and explain. And I don't have a solution. So I'm proposing you as a challenge. New use cases, perhaps, I don't know. We'll talk about it in front of beers. So one thing that I mentioned already is that we are living in a software-defined era. There are 4 eras that I tried to sketch in the past talk, and this is, I believe, the one where we are living in. It has many characteristics. It could be described in many ways, but yeah, well, since we are in Rome, one important thing to keep in mind is that in this era, we are losing what we called the Roman law on possession. So private property is changing its configuration completely. Today, you can buy cars that have functionalities in them, but you will activate them only if you pay a subscription. BMW cars have heating wheels, steering wheels, only if you pay a subscription that activate them. So you hold, and of course, if you are gamers, you know that it's a very problematic what you own and what you don't own in games. There is a discussion in the European Parliament about this and a law to terminate the strings attached in games. You buy a game and maybe the server goes down and your game doesn't run anymore. So this software-defined era is actually residing us from these 3 rights that were established in Roman law that, well, simply put, is that once we own something, we can use it the way we want. And you can see these in many different fields. I invite you also to stand up and try to relate to this later. So I believe that we have a new paradigm in ICT coming up now, and this impacts directly the era in which we are living. The new paradigm is that our technology stops being deterministic. This is perhaps on the LLM hype, so on the machine learning hype now growing, but the fact is that the deployments of these machine learnings are detaching us from a deterministic process. This is, I believe, a huge shift in paradigm. It is similar to the difference between physics and chemistry. In chemistry, you don't have deterministic processes. If you mix something in chemistry, you cannot get to the ingredients anymore. You can hide the ingredients. Huge industries were built on industrial secrets based on this. Sugar water industries. So nowadays we are, like downhill to so much choice between Pepsi and Coca-Cola. De facto, these industries built themselves on huge industrial secrets that were possible because the technology was not deterministic. Now I'm making a very broad context shift. But imagine we are dealing now with LLMs that do not document the thought process, so we cannot reproduce the same output with the same input. This is a fundamental change, especially impacting us in a software-defined era. So we will not be able to distribute liabilities or establish why our subscription worked or not, why our software-defined reality has reacted in a way or another. So reality will be not anymore interpretable by cause and effect reactions. This is dismissal for medics, for instance, medicine is based on that, is dismissal for lawyers. It will be very difficult to establish the cause-effect, chain effects of systems. I believe that, so I mentioned this as the first trouble at the horizon because I believe that our movement is there to stand against this. If, as a applied cryptographer, that's my daily job every day since 10 years, I stand against non-deterministic technologies. What I want to know is exactly like how to reobtain and demonstrate the same output with the same input. Arturo, you work on ONI, which is like a huge worldwide struggle to determinism. You're trying to establish where internet is blocked in the world by sort of angiography of the network. So that is extremely difficult and uphill, but you see, you probably can really understand what it means to live in a non-deterministic system where you cannot establish the liabilities. We cannot say this country has blocked or not. It's very difficult to do that. So beware, this is very much on a philosophical level. So I want you to relate to it in your own context eventually. The second danger, now I'm talking about my biggest client, so, I am very open about it, and I'm open with them as well, whether they like to hear it or not. The fact that the European Commission, in particular the JRC, the Joint Research Center, is working on a European digital identity architecture is not news to many of us. So this is part of eIDAS 2.0, is an update to the identity systems that are being used in Europe. The eIDAS 1.0, for instance, has compliance with what is used here in Italy as the SPID, and the eIDAS 2.0 is getting to new standards. What they are to do, these standards, they will put a wallet in your phone so that you can load on it an ID or a driving license, for instance. There are pilots also in the US. There are developments of different standards and different protocols between the US and Europe. It's very interesting to compare them. I was just 1 week ago running a seminar of 2 hours into the Central Bank of Italy about this. There are many people working on this. In Italy, the Mint is very advanced, and also there is a team of the government that is implementing these open source standards. I'm not here to tell you that this is dangerous because it's not open source. It's actually, the methodology is quite okay. There is a problem in there. This is like a quick glance of the use case. You are in crypto, so you are familiar with this, I guess. You can load a credential on your mobile phone and then show it and produce it. So one will think, oh, then I can do like selective disclosure, zero knowledge. Selective disclosure, yes. Zero knowledge, no. And we will see why. And in general, in this system, we have people that believe that it's a good idea to put a card into a mobile phone. So who comes from cybersecurity knows there are some threats. This system has one big problem that was deaf to criticism. Perhaps, and I know internally, the project was pretty late, so is running late and is rushing to obtain the set of KPIs that wanted to have. Large-scale pilots on the other side were slowed down on their initiatives and kept sticking to a main standard, which was criticized, especially on the crypto side. So I'm showing this slide, which is the first page of a cryptographer's feedback presented by these names. And if you are into cryptography, you will recognize that some of them, I would say all of them, these are the superheroes of cryptography. Like these are cryptographer stars, like Jan Kamenisch or Anna Lisianskaya, or Bart Prenell, or my colleague Jaap-Henk Hoopman was there. We worked on a previous European project. So they came out saying that many things don't work in this, and especially the cryptographic part. So I'm not alone criticizing this. There's also a very interesting feedback by the team in Finland working on it. And I will just make a very short overview of what doesn't work, let alone the politics of having an identity centralized into a standard and protocol across Europe, but what doesn't work technically. So first of all, there's a lack of privacy. This system does not do any zero knowledge. It could be, depending from the implementation, it could be even vulnerable to replay attacks. And definitely, there is linkability of presentations. So in case of issuer and even verifier collusion, especially verifier collusion, you can collect the presentations. So every time you show an ID card or a driving license, colluding verifiers could track you across your presentations. Inadequate cryptography. This system is stuck to what is an approved standards by boards of engineers that are extremely slow in Europe, and so it can only use HMAC, basically keyed hashing. There is no zero knowledge proof. There is not even BBS Plus, which is a 20-year-old algorithm for zero knowledge proofs, which is used in the US. In my opinion, the US is way forward in their approach here. And in Europe, we are just staying on HMAC. Why? especially because we have faith in hardware. And this touches us especially in the Web3 space. There is an extreme faith in the fact that something buried in hardware will be secure. So if a computation is done by a particular chip, a TE, so a trusted execution environment, which can be then can be compliant as an hardware secure module, these are the buzzwords, then it must be secure. And I know this is wrong. There are a lot of attacks done on these chips. The chips can be isolated into simulation environments. They can be peeled under the microscope. Keys can be retrieved from them. There are tons of attacks on this. And this is just like not looked at by the people working on this. They're just like, you know, sliding off the liability. Well, the engineers said that the hardware must be good. I think one big challenge here, I hint you, the Web3 community and in general the crypto community can take up is to demonstrate that software computation, so computation made in software, can be secured. We need to start talking about secure hardware like HSM, hardware secure modules, software secure modules. You can make computation deterministic, and you can make it peer-reviewed. This is, you know, blockchains in a DLT, and this is one of the best things that you can do with a blockchain, rather than put it anywhere where you don't need. So we need to start moving politically and technically, technopolitically, I would say, this front, I believe. There can be computation in software that is as secure, if not even more, than in hardware. We can sign VMs. Our VM is one of many. You can sign an EVM build and obtain deterministic results. So why not? And you can put it in as a payload. You can facilitate. This has a lot of consequences. One consequence of faith in hardware I like to mention is the fact that, and I will show it in the thread, if you have faith only in hardware, only hardware manufacturers will be on top of this. It means that only certain hardware manufacturers will be able to develop devices that can process your identity. And guess how many companies are in the market producing mobile phones? How many operating systems 99% of the world uses? Apple and Google. So we are in the hands of two. Everyone knows in the commission they are just preparing a red carpet for them, but no one says it. And there are proofs of what I'm saying. There is an NGO which is called Open Wallet Foundation, funded by Google and Apple, getting all its space into the lobbies, and basically they are the ones pushing. If you see the events they organize, they are road shows. They don't have scientists on the stage saying, oh, this could be done, this could be done, that. It's like Steve Ballmer shows, oh, we are going to have digital identity in Europe, yeah, like this. So faith in hardware has many, many consequences, and here we need really to step up as a community. Revocation, very, very bad. Remember Green Pass? Here in Italy, Ministero della Salute, they published the revocation lists in Clear. You could actually work through them to understand who had COVID, who not. Like complete violation of privacy, Garante della Privacy, overlooked it, emergency, okay. Things could have been done better, but they weren't. And this is happening again. No revocation, no privacy-preserving revocation is built into the system. It could be done. We produced a paper called SDBLS, published by EEEE a month ago, in which we demonstrated a system of revocation privacy-preserving with accumulators, basically. This is not going to be like this. And worst of all, also we demonstrated that revocation needs a threshold. Otherwise, we live in a dystopia, because if we put one button in the hands of the same issuer that give you the ID card, and this governor, this government, this prime minister, this power can push the button and revoke you anytime, this is a problem. We need by law, but also by cryptography, that more than one institution approves the revocation of something. Imagine you are a journalist that is writing the truth in Hungary, and you have a prime minister like the one now in Hungary, which is also, by the way, the president of the commission right now. This power could just like revoke all your credentials, strain you, leave you without a car. You will not even be able to bring your kids to school with the car at the press of a button. But if you're a journalist, we argue you should have also the League of Journalists approving such a thing, and so on and so forth. So we need the revocation that has a threshold. We need a little bit of a safety there. It's not there. They are deaf to it. Scalability and usability were issues raised by the Finnish colleagues, and you can guess what they are about. This thing doesn't process enough verifications and issuance, and usability is very bad because it's very complex. They are adding things to it. They're adding against, as a protection against linkability, the issuer will give you 10 or 100 credentials that you will show, and you have to choose through them. So you will use them like a strip card. And yeah, well, there are huge usability issues in all what they are doing as a patchwork. The whole identity system, some lawyer raised the hand, was not designed for legal persons. This is only for natural persons. So big lack of feature there. And last not least, I get to the third point that I wanted to make. There is no threat model. Believe it or not, I work with my colleague and cybersecurity expert, Simone Onofri. He's right now at the W3C. I will explain you why I'm mentioning this. We looked at this together, and we looked at the EUDR specification, and we saw that there was no threat model before doing the architecture reference framework. So no one has studied what are the threats, the security model of the system we are defending against. So every time you talk to them, it's just like, well, this is not a threat. You know, it depends who you have in front. They can tell you, no, but this is not a threat for us. You know, like you have officers promoting this, and yeah, but this is not a threat. This is a threat. This is not a threat. So it's completely, you know, you are just like making it up as it goes. I, as a security researcher, am used to have a threat model before there is a reference framework, before there is an architecture, because you need to establish what you're defending against. Because, that you like it or not, you cannot defend about everything. So there will be no architecture that will be defending about everything. You have to choose, and you have to choose well what is your threat. So I think this is utterly disgusting about EUDR. I understand people that are doing it are in good faith, but probably they are not capable of the task they are taking. One thing that they see everywhere is this threat. So here I tell you the lack of threat model is the third problem I see in front, and it's something that we need to work on. We need to tell people, we need to educate ourselves and people outside about threat awareness. This is not the only threat that we are facing when we do an identity system. How much time do I have more? And this is what everyone working on the system sees all the time. They just see identity theft as criminals. Well, no. I think that if we work in an interdisciplinary way and we consult really the stakeholders, civil society, people working, journalists, and so on and so forth, there are many more threats. And I give you here an example. One threat is populist politicians. Not absolutely accounted, but it's happening in Europe. We are getting the worst people elected for a reason or another, and the trend in using fake news is not saying it's going better. So these people will have one push button and will revoke the credentials of those who they like and don't like. Don't tell me this is not happening, because here, right here in Italy, there was a market of secret information leaking of telecom just 10 years ago. And it was a market about information of politicians that were sold between parties. So this will happen, and this is probably already happening. And this is one threat that they need to account for. Hence, for instance, threshold revocation. Grey bureaucrats. They are well-meaning. They, of course, are all in very good faith. But what they have in front is a Gantt chart, and they need to finish before the funding goes back to home. So they are rushing into implementing systems that are exposing us to these sort of threats. Obsolescence. They want just to use the chip that is there, the standard that is there. No one wants to make the legwork to understand what is zero knowledge and apply it. They will just ship it. You know, this EUD needs to be already implemented in 2025. Expert consultants. You will see the lobbies crawling through them. You have an amazing amount of them right now. There are only a few people working at the very top level. They are completely overworked. Of course, they are in good faith, but you cannot develop the standard, be on the board of 2 foundations, and go around in roadshows telling people that EUD is good. There are very few people on top of the system right now. And this is like a very colluding and small circle right now. Mega corporations. You know what they have to take from this. If I told you that even whatever verifier between who checks your driving license and who checks your, I don't know, the ticket of a bus or a train, if you want, if they collude, they can follow you. Imagine the big corporations behind the main OS where this is running, what they will know about people. They will have a huge amount of data about people. I'm talking about an ID, so I'm talking about what you're compelled in the Netherlands. We need to carry an ID at all times. If an officer asks you for an ID 3 times, you go to jail if you don't present your ID. So this is something that is not just for geeks, it's for everyone. The data grab that we are looking at, which will be in the hands of Google and Apple, right as it has been in their hands for the Green Pass already, the technical trial that was the Green Pass under COVID, it will be all in their hands. As, you know, they have God on their side. They are doing good. They are good doing no evil. But in fact, they will have a huge, really huge stake and asset. So that's all. I look forward to your reactions here or off the stage. And I hope I didn't scare you too much. I think that us as a community, we are on the forefront to face what is happening. And again, there are ways, technical ways already unlocking the fact that we can do secure computation in software. We can demonstrate it. We can lobby and make it understood by people. It's very important. And personally, I joined forces with the W3C. Here you see a new community group. This is a threat modeling community group, TMCG. It's open. You can just join it as a community group. You don't need to pay fees or be an invited expert. And you're very welcome to join it if you want to bring your experience. Not as a developer or security expert, what you think is a threat that we will face in the moment in which we develop such an identity solution. And yeah, then our contact, you have all the channels where we hang out. Cheers. Yes, any question?
I'm coming. Hey, so I just walked in like 5 minutes after you started or something, and I guess the reason why you're talking about this EU reference framework, so a governmental framework, rather than, you know, theoretical frameworks that we could build ourselves without reference to governments, is this because of the worry that these things are going to be required for, basically, like, ultimately there is the big stick of the government behind it. So in which case, is there any other option than getting governmental bodies to agree something better?
I think for now the option is keeping things as they are. And I know from internal sources across governments working on this that they are doing this as a demonstration that they can implement what the EC is talking about, but they will never put it in production because they think it's insecure, because they have read this criticism, and they don't think this can really roll out. So this is the good news at the end. But yes, I'm talking about it not because it's the coolest thing, but it's because it's going to be mandated to our grandmothers, you know. So anyone, and I think that's very worrying. And I'm telling you, because probably you have better solutions, but they don't know about it. And anytime I tried to tell them about better solutions they can look at, they thought I was just like, you know, not really credible, talking about what I was talking, zero knowledge proof, blockchain, nothing is standardized. So yes, there are alternatives, but we need to go back to, you know, first I think I'm not a lobbyist or an expert in politics, and here becomes very political. I think we need to face this wave first, because it's a hyped wave, and then go back to actually discuss in a scientific way, with a scientific method, with a peer-reviewed method, which we have already in our communities in a way or another, what works, what can work, what can really make our life better, and the privacy of citizens better, and the liability of companies lower, and so on and so forth. I hope I replied you.
Yeah, yeah.
Cheers.
First stop it, and then go back to the drawing board.
I think, yeah, I'd rather do that. Anyone else? Yeah, but you said we have beers at the end, so everyone wants to just like... Cheers.